Looks like we're all here. Really excited. All right, let's get into this. Time to go. So, before we get started with this session today, I just have to remind everyone that you're going to be hearing a lot of great information about our history and where we're going at Salesforce. Please remember to make all your purchasing decisions based on products and features that are currently available. Good afternoon. And wherever you are, here in person or around the world, welcome and thank you. My name is Matt Parin, and I'm thrilled to be here at reInvent this week to talk about our incredible technology, Hyperforce. This session is your front row seat to hear from me and my colleague Emily Childs, and we're here to give you just a taste of what it's like to be on the leading edge of this transformational change for customers around the world. To tell the whole story of Salesforce's future with Hyperforce, I'd first like to step back to a time when the lights of today were just breaking over the horizon. I'd like to take you back to 2005. Maybe some of you remember it. This is the time when Netflix wasn't streaming and Carrie Underwood had just won American Idol. Salesforce was fresh off its IPO with fewer than 1,000 employees, showing everyone the power of software in the cloud. If you had a web browser, you could be a Salesforce user. Global technology was the way that we all were going to transform organizations and the world. It really was an incredible era. At the time, I was just a student living abroad, taking in new experiences daily. But one of those experiences really stuck with me. So, while I was traveling, I found there was a little more nuance to this idea of global technology. I found some websites were blocked, and other times I found I couldn't call friends in other countries. Now, this wasn't just me having the wrong web address or phone number. I found something else was actually going on. So let me ask with a show of hands. How many of you here today have also had this kind of experience in your own lives? Actually, this is cool. A lot of you have. Well, for everyone else, I'll share with you that this was actually my introduction into the differences of how technology operates around the globe. And essentially, it was my crash course into technology regulations and global data protections. So, a lot has changed with cloud-based software in the last 15 years. Just this week at AWS, how many announcements have you all seen? So many, right? But what has not changed for us at Salesforce and AWS, of course, is our core value of customer success. You'll hear more about this a little later, but stories like those of Ritchie Cotton from Valiant Finance really show how dedicated we are to our core value. And we're really eternally grateful to all of our customers and partners, and of course our trailblazers who've been with us for years. And we're grateful for all those who will join with us well into the future. Now, jumping forward from the past to the present, and those early experiences I had as a student are now impacting even more people around the world. Technology really is becoming an integral part of nearly all our lives. And this is driving Salesforce to operate and go to market in ways like never before. And thanks, in part, to the groundbreaking regulations from Europe's GDPR, around the world, we're seeing more customers than ever ask about protections on how data is stored, processed, and used. And at the same time, we're hearing a lot of customers in highly regulated markets or countries demand things like data residency. In nearly every nation, we see just this general rising awareness as well as demand for data protections to be built into the technology and applications customers use. Indeed, these trends around data are shifting with the speed and scope like never before. Now, for Salesforce, by operating at global scale, with customers ranging from the smallest startups who are just getting started with the Slack-first digital HQ, all the way to the largest, most heavily regulated multinational customers, we see up close what customers need to be successful. So what do customers need? They need to become a trusted enterprise. They need things like data residency, sustainability, scalability, and security throughout the entire software supply chain. Thankfully, our platform, plus the many technical, organizational, and contractual protections we have in place, gives Salesforce a natural mutation that allows us to weather this changing environment better than most. Indeed, it's not just the circumstances, but our actual values, which drives us to provide our customers with even more controls on their data. This is why our partnership with AWS is so important. With our core values of trust and customer success, we know the more flexible the Salesforce platform can be to support and even exceed industry expectations on data protection, local data storage, and sustainability, the more successful our customers will be. This approach allows us to secure the future of our technology and respond to shifts in policy, all the while allowing us to continue to provide critical services to our customers around the world. So what does this mean for you? The right, left, around the world? Well, we've done something really big to meet this challenge. It's called Hyperforce. Hyperforce is our reimagination of the company's platform architecture. It's built to securely and reliably deliver the entire 360 product suite. And here's why Hyperforce matters. First, Hyperforce is the single biggest change to our architecture since our co-founder Parker Harris wrote those first lines of code in 1999. Second, it represents the technology that will provide the next generation of growth for our company. It's delivering on external customer demands as well as supercharging our internal engineering teams. And most exciting, we are already using it to deliver the qualities and capabilities back to our customers which they've been asking for. So with this, what I've shared with you today is a reflection of the changes in our world and Salesforce's position in it. And importantly, it's not just a Salesforce story. This is a story that takes all of our stakeholders to make happen. And really, truly, I'm grateful to so many partners here and around the world who have helped make this vision a reality. To tell you a little more about this Salesforce story, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Emily Childs, who will tell you a little more details about Hyperforce.
Thanks, Matt. How
Here
are
you go,
you?
Emily.
Hey, everybody. It's great to see you. I'm Emily Childs, Director of Product Management for Hyperforce. So, oh, pardon me, getting that. Faced with these challenges that you heard Matt talking about, Salesforce had two options. We could either continue building on the cloud, on our data centers that we had been building on for the last 20 years, double down on that, or we can embrace the power of AWS. Spoiler alert, we chose the latter. Our goal was to get a session here at reInvent. All serious. Thanks. All kidding aside. We're at a crossroads. We need to figure out how we can scale in the way we want to scale. How can we build in a way that we can evolve and use technology in the way that we want to, in a way that our customers need it? So the good thing about that, AWS gives us those things that we need. AWS allows us to scale quickly. AWS has a great security story, encryption at rest, encryption at transit. So it makes our security story much more complete. And last but not least, AWS helps us navigate that ever-changing world of data policy and data regulations. So, and not so coincidentally, AWS has regions all over the world where we're seeing that demand from customers for data residency. Once we built Hyperforce, the next thing we have to do is deploy it in those regions where we're seeing the highest customer demand. And what's great, by the end of next year, we'll be in 16 different countries. Also, by the build of Hyperforce, we're allowed to have a stronger data residency option for our European Union customers. So, and what allows us to do that? We have a great relationship with AWS. We had to be able to take our 20 years of innovation in our data centers and be able to build on the public cloud. So our relationship with AWS helped us do that. Now, taking a step back here, how many of you in the audience are familiar with Salesforce? How many are new? Let's do this. How many are new? Great. Hi. So what Salesforce is, going back to the Customer 360 model, it is a suite of products, and all these products help end-to-end every part of our customer's business. As part of building this portfolio, we had to purchase a company or two. So when you purchase a product, it's going to come with its own architecture and its own design. So when we build a unified platform like we did with Hyperforce, and we migrate those products onto that platform, we start to get unification in our interfaces, in our operating model, and our deployment. So, working with AWS, how do we do that? For 20 years, we've been building based on a data center, not on the cloud. So, AWS worked with us very closely to be able to take what we've learned and migrate it, take the critical architecture that we have and keep it. We didn't want to relearn lessons we've already learned, and help us use cloud-native technologies. We wanted to be able to do that because we wanted to be able to continue what we know works, but we wanted to architect in a way that will allow us to grow and evolve where we needed to be. I liken it to when you're driving down the road in a car, and we took the chassis out and put in a new one. You do that badly, and you have some consequences you really don't want. So we had to do this while we're building. We had to make sure we were doing it carefully. We have some critical businesses that our customers run on our platform, and we wanted to do it quickly. We didn't want to spend another 20 years re-architecting. So, all right, how many of you have built on AWS in the audience? Show of hands. Not surprising, a good fair amount of you. How many of you started native, all cloud native on AWS? Okay, great, that's awesome. How many of you had to re-architect? Okay. How many of you did a lift and shift? Hello, my new lift and shift friends. We did that. It was good learning for us. It was a good first step. But quite frankly, what we learned the most is we needed to re-architect. I'm not even going to get into how expensive it was for us. So how do we re-architect in the way where we can do that, where we keep everything that's critical and important to us and allow ourselves to grow? What we did, working with AWS, our partnership, we built architectural principles. These are principles that we used to help with any trade-off decisions we have and help us use cloud-native technology. First one, infrastructure as code. Okay. Provisioning, deprovisioning, changes, it's all on coded derivatives and configuration, and it's deployed using automated tools. Right? Immutable deployments. Any introduction, any changes we have is a full unit, and it's always deployed as that full unit. We're not doing immediate fixes right in production. Okay. Zero trust architecture. All of our service-to-service communication is authorized and authenticated, regardless if it's in the same security group or on the same network. Right. Service resilience. This one's pretty simple. We're required to always use 3 AZs. We can fail over gracefully that way, and you're not beholden to any hardening. Compliance. This one was a good one for us. All of our first-party data centers that we're running out of are all compliant. We had to, at a minimum, make sure that we had those compliant levels. So we built from the ground up with the compliance in mind. Cost to serve. I kind of like this one. This allowed our service teams to have access to what our costs are, so they could build cost goals into their build and reduce our costs overall. Okay, service ownership. Not only do the services own the deployment, they own the operations and they own the customer experience. And last but not least, elastic-driven ops. So thresholds, settings, events, all of these things are driven to help predict any issues. All of our workloads are based on the scale of the workload need. Basically, it's auto-scaling. So all of these principles were critical to us to be able to architect in a way that allows us to be able to be cloud native and still keep what's important to us from the 20 years of innovation that we had previously. It's really exciting for us. It's really exciting to see what our customers are going to do with this, what the trailblazers, what our partners are going to do with this. I had the opportunity about a week and a half ago to sit down with one of our customers that's migrated over, Ritchie Cotton from Valiant Finance. I'll let you guys listen in on our conversation.
Well, thank you, Ritchie, very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time to talk to us about Hyperforce. Before we get into that, though, if you could do me a favor, talk a little bit about Valiant Finance, a little bit about yourself, maybe some problems you're seeing, see if there's any problems that maybe Hyperforce can help you with.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ritchie, one of the co-founders of Valiant, also CTO, look after all things product marketing and technology and engineering in the business. Valiant, we're Australia's leading business lending platform. We help businesses find the right finance at the right time on the terms they deserve. And given we operate in financial services, a heavy regulated industry, and we deal with sensitive data daily, ultimately a lot of our problems technologically are in security, reliability, data residency is a big issue. And so those kind of matter above all else, but we're also an extremely fast growing startup. So scalability and performance, closely follow. So I think, speaking about Hyperforce, the same kind of on-demand scale up, scale down style of infrastructure that I fell in love with on Heroku as a Ruby developer back in the day, having that now accessible across our entire architecture is awesome. And so I think, with the launch of Hyperforce, Salesforce functions, and a few other things coming, we're in an incredibly exciting era of scalability that's achievable through the Salesforce platform. And, we're planning to take full advantage of all that. And others really should too. Our sort of customer facing technology, that's what's hosted on Heroku. That all live syncs, in real time via a really cool connector we built with Salesforce, which powers all our internal workflows, Sales Cloud there. And having both those sets of technology, not only finally in the same country, but also effectively in the same data center or near enough, huge for us from a performance and latency perspective, so we can deliver a great outcome to customers every time.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. Do you see anything in your future? Do you see any problems with different markets or any challenges that you're facing with you or Valiant Finance? Anything as you go to new markets and see new customers?
Yeah, so the primary value at Valiant that underpins everything we do is to be customer champions. So when we think of the problems we're facing, we often lens them as what are the problems of our customers, or what are the problems that get in the way of us truly championing our customers. And I think data is playing more and more of a part in that story. And I think, to be able to qualify and effectively underwrite a business loan and operate in financial services more generally, it requires a heap of data. Some of it's heavily structured, some of it's incredibly unstructured, whether it be images, PDF documents, all sorts. But no matter what type of data, though, customers care about it. They want to know the when, what, why, and how of the journey that their data goes on, as a part of the process. So I think ownership and residency of data will continually be a critical piece of the security and cyber puzzle that companies and businesses need to face and solve for, much like any other risk in a business. So I think concepts like open banking and incentives for data sharing, etc., kind of waking up the public consciousness a bit to how valuable that data is and what it can mean to the outcomes they can achieve. Sort of a quick anecdote is, we've seen a pretty remarkable increase in the willingness of customers to link their online banking accounts as a part of a lending application. Because now we can use bank statements and do real-time analysis that would have otherwise taken however long, and get people instant results, which is pretty incredible. But again, obviously, we've spent years in market building trust around how we use that data, how we handle it, how we capture it, how we present it back to the customer. But having the quick and easy answer, something like Hyperforce, to the question of where it's stored, the path it travels, encrypted at rest, travel, etc., is fantastic. And I think much like anything valuable, there's sort of a gold rush of sorts. There's sort of this idea to measure everything, and the more data, the better. But obviously, they need to do something with that data, and all of that requires compute, right? Like the more sophisticated decision making gets, the more sort of data we're processing, more customers we have, all of that continually requires more scalability compute. And so scalability of architecture has always been a core problem to solve in any technology business. But I think we're hitting sort of an exponential growth of data capture generation, where it becomes that much more critical to maintain service levels as well as grow the sort of commercial and underlying business more broadly, less so just the technology. And so I think we kind of see that scalability as a critical input in enabling us to champion our customers. And I think, in terms of thinking about how those problems will evolve over time, I think given how connected all the aspects of day-to-day life are via technology, particularly with respect to commerce, I just can't see these challenges ever abating. And I think they'll need to be continually managed, much like, as I mentioned before, any other risk in the business. Before, there's sort of a big trend of, managing social engineering risks when it comes to cybersecurity, like the data risks, privacy, security, reliability, and sort of access rights and sort of consent management. All of that plays in to sort of those risks going forward as well. So I don't think any of that's going away. They just have to be more closely managed.
Yeah, totally agree. I think you're in good company. There's a lot of companies out there that are facing those same problems. Really quickly, if you have a moment, tell me a little bit about your journey with Hyperforce, what your experiences are, what some of our customers that are about to onboard, what they can expect.
Yeah, sure. So being an Australian business, when we first became a Salesforce customer, obviously Hyperforce wasn't available as an option. And the moment we found out about where we could have, our data located in Australia, using sort of the latest and greatest of Salesforce architecture, we kind of put our hand up straight away. And the transition to Hyperforce was incredibly smooth. For us, it felt much like any other instance migration, except, this time when things wrapped up, the sort of our instance was noticeably snappier, to use the sort of buzzword, a lot faster. We had that peace of mind that, we were on architecture designed from the ground up for Australian customers of Salesforce, where data residency, security, reliability were all really critical. And it's having that data here, and then now, not only do we have assets stored on data centers in Australia as well as other microservices, etc., having all of the constituent parts of our architecture only a hop, skip, and a jump away, was pretty incredible, because it massively increased performance, reduced network latency, etc. All the things that we're looking to achieve to give customers a fantastic experience. So we've seen an incredible amount of performance increase and availability of resourcing, not only for sort of main threaded tasks, but all that async processing too. We've just seen our queue just works harder and faster, which is wonderful. That's always a good thing. And I think with the introduction of limits-free compute with Salesforce functions, that's sort of the next evolution of all this, where we're extremely excited to further explore how we can, sort of leverage that next-gen tech as well. So I think the adoption of public cloud, scalability, responsiveness, the security, residency, that next-generation architecture that Salesforce is bringing is really, really critical. And so far, the process has been super, super smooth. Couldn't be happier.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing the positive impact that you've been seeing, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Fantastic to meet you.
You too. Thank you so much.
All right. I've talked to you about where we've been. I've talked to you about where we're going. I'm going to tell you where we're at today. So for Hyperforce, we've already migrated over 8,500 orgs. An org is a business unit for our customers. Generally, our customers will have one org. There's a couple large customers that will have more than one. We've welcomed 50 new customers onto Hyperforce. We're in 7 different countries today. In over a year, we've deployed 7 different countries. And 3 of those countries, Brazil, Singapore, and India, are countries we haven't been in before. So, considering that Hyperforce is a complete re-architecture for us, we consider this a success story for us, which is interesting because we have a success story that our customers don't notice yet. So once we get to the ability to be able to accelerate and build products more quickly on this platform, when we can automate everything, we can do some machine learning, we can do some analytics to start suggesting improvements for us and suggesting new products for our customer. That's going to be exciting for us. So if you want to learn more about Hyperforce, we're in the Content Hub. You can come talk to us there. You can meet us here on site. And also, you can read up online. All right? So again, thank you so much. It is so great to see you. Thank you for joining our session. I'm going to turn the mic over to you guys, and you can ask us some questions.
Sure. All right.
I can't see anybody if anybody's. The mics are there if you have any questions. Yes?
I'm close enough. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're transitioning over from a data center culture, like you said, 20 years, your entire engineering org, you're doing it in-house, and you're transitioning into the cloud. How did you maintain the culture? Because I mean, I've always seen Salesforce from the outside. You guys have a really clearly defined culture and how you work with your partners. How are you maintaining that moving forward?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer. I'm also going to hand it over to Josh because I think he's going to be able to, from a technical side, answer how our teams handled that because it's a different technology. So culturally wise, it's still, Salesforce has a very definite culture. That hasn't changed at all. But having people with a new skill set, I'm going to turn that over to Josh to answer.
Yeah, so it's what we found on a lot of this is that, technical transitions, they have an easy start and they have an easy end. Like, you know what you have to do for the technical work. Huge transitions like this are largely cultural. And so how do we navigate that cautiously? How do we not lose kind of that key thing that really differentiated us from a lot of companies in the industry? And the answer is, it's kind of cliche, but it was to do it very deliberately. So when we would go through, we would notice when there were cultural changes. We would listen to the feedback from the engineers and from the managers and say, hey, this isn't working. This wasn't just a re-architecture for us internally. It was a reimagining of how we do everything when it comes down to our software. How we think about our processes, how we think about service ownership, how we embrace the DevOps mentality, how we carefully adopt accountability, right, without getting rid of some of the things that have made it really special. And so for us, it's kind of a trial and error. We fail, we learn, we adjust, and we get back up. And that's why it's taking a while. Like, we're 3.5 years into this. We've probably got another 4 years to go, and we want to do it that rate so that we don't misstep in a way that we can't undo, right? And that's the key thing for us.
Welcome. Good question. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So, while AWS does have a very impressive footprint everywhere globally, but they do have countries they're not in. They don't have a foreign presence. So what's your plan for the countries you want to have a market, but they don't have on the roadmap?
So, I mean, I'll speak to a really specific example about how we actually made this possible. So, due to the close relationship that Salesforce maintains with AWS, we were early on seeing a lot of demand for customers in the Middle East, for example. We knew that AWS had a region in Bahrain that had been very successful with, but it wasn't just Bahrain. We knew we needed to get into other parts of the Middle East. And so when we were working with our customers, both AWS's customers as well as our customers, we last summer, actually this summer was it, when we made the decision to jointly announce the new region in UAE. So that's kind of the example of how we will go to market and think about our new markets together in our partnerships with AWS. So it's a great example. There's a press release on it. And that's kind of like our pattern kind of going forward. We're going to be continuing to listen to our customers. And we're going to collaborate with AWS and make any of those joint announcements as the business demand kind of suggests.
You're not close enough.
Thank you. So my question is that I think that Salesforce has probably lots and lots of customers out there, different verticals, different industries, and I think customization for these different customers is very important. I'm just curious about what are your technical strategy of offering customization for different customers, and then at which layer do you offer, and then how would it work with AWS from a cloud technology point of view?
Yeah. You want me to jump in, then you can jump in later, Josh?
Sure, you start.
Okay. As long as those customizations are still following our best practices, it's compatible with what we've done. And we've migrated quite a few that are very customized, some of these orgs that are very customized. We do have a list of customers that we evaluate ahead of time to make sure that their customizations aren't going to break when we migrate them over. You want to jump on?
Yeah, I think when we think about Salesforce customizations, right, there's a lot of different things that it could be. Are you using managed packages? Are you doing Apex development? Are you using something like Salesforce Functions? Are you using standard SKU offerings? Have you worked with a sales rep and developed a custom SKU offering that we're offering you? All of these things are count as customizations, and for us, I think the architectural principles that were put on the board were important, but the number one thing we had to do was ensure that we maintained our contract with the customer, and I don't mean the legal contract here, I mean like your interface with us has to be the same. And so as you move across, with very few exceptions where you're not following our own best practices, we want to make sure that you basically can't even tell that you're running on Hyperforce. And so everything at that layer above there had to be 100% compatible across the board. There are stories in the industry of people doing replatforms where they make their customers do changes. Those don't end well. You can't make your customer replatform just because we replatformed. And so for us, that was one of the biggest tenets we had. Was that what you were getting to, or was there something else?
Yeah, I think that's very close. And also, from the hosting point of view, do you expect to interact with customers' AWS accounts, or everything's hosted on Salesforce?
Salesforce will, with the exceptions of like MuleSoft and Tableau, will never run inside of a customer's AWS account or customer's infrastructure. That is the current stance. However, we do offer products like Salesforce Private Connect, right? It's essentially our branding over Private Link, which will allow you to connect your AWS account and come across and to interact with us without going over the public internet. But there's no plan on record that I can talk about or even thought about that would allow us to have you run within your own AWS accounts. Yeah. Yep.
Oh wait,
There's a mic right there if you want it.
Just to follow up to that, does that include data federation and on-prem data?
Sorry, I'm going to bring the mic over so you can ask. That one's a little.
Yeah, it's a little.
Here you go.
give Josh some extra.
Subtle one.
Thank you. Does that stance also include on-prem data as far as having and keeping our data in our AWS account?
This is data you would be entering into the Salesforce system. Is that correct? Or is this your data?
This is our data that would be used by Salesforce.
Jay, there's nothing there, right? But hold on. I'm going to get my exercise in today.
Thanks for being the mic runner, Josh.
Of course. Here you go.
Jay Hurst, product management, Salesforce. I own our platform services, integration services, and we actually have been on a journey with AWS over the last 6 to 8 months as we announced our expanded partnership, specifically around how do we make our two platforms interoperate better. So for those use cases where you need something like a data stored in Dynamo or in RDS, but you still need that to interact with Salesforce, we can provide that plumbing for you, whether you're on our first-party data centers or on Hyperforce as you go through. So we have a ton of connectors, a ton of ability to go into on-prem data sources, cloud-native data sources, whatever you need. So that's kind of part of our integration strategy as it exists today. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And over here. Love it.
So, following up on the same line, right? Being in AWS, there are things like AppFlow where you can take the backup of Salesforce, put it out there, but there is always a dependency on Salesforce connectors to interact with Salesforce data. So in your roadmap, is there anything out there which will enable a normal developer to go in and access that information to whatever keys or whatever fancy stuff you develop? Or is the strategy always to go via the Salesforce interface to get the data out there?
Right.
Because that's an ongoing challenge, right? Moving data is
Yeah.
definitely a cost.
There's a trust and regulatory component to this, right? Salesforce isn't just we joke it sometimes that Salesforce is a database with some web forms on top, right? But it's a lot more than that. And so, yeah, your data's in Salesforce, but I think those connectors that you currently use to interact with the data in Salesforce ensure a lot of the things around the GDPR compliance and just data integrity in general that would be really hard for us to replicate if we were to just give you raw access to essentially the database key, right?
The line where I was going, just making a use case, there are Salesforce workflows. Those are specific to the use cases where there is Salesforce applicability for the business, and there can be event triggers which can, kick off another button which is outside of Salesforce. So that is where I was going. That is it going to be boxed up where the workflows will remain in Salesforce, or at some point it is going to say, because when this can I?
Yeah, so this is specifically what we're doing with the expanded partnership is kind of one of the mantras we were tasked with is what if Salesforce was a low-code platform for AWS data, and what if AWS was a pro-code platform for Salesforce data? So we're definitely through the process of building those connectivity pieces on our own with AWS so that as you as a joint customer are working through, you config rather than code those pieces. And it also provides you the ability to keep your pro-code AWS inside of the environment as well as languages that they're comfortable with without having to do the heavy lift of learning all of the Salesforce pieces, and keep your Salesforce builders and admins in the Salesforce experience and without having to try and bridge that gap yourself. So that's definitely what we're trying to accomplish with the partnership.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions?
One
Over
more
here.
in the back.
Go, Josh. You can do it.
All right, thanks. In the presentation, you touched on how Hyperforce would enable greater unification across all of the Salesforce clouds and apps, if I understood correctly. So could you talk a little bit more about what that looks like, and particularly for me as an end user of Salesforce, what that would look like for me? Like, will
about the
Sales Cloud,
integration
Marketing
point?
Cloud, better, yeah, integrate.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You want to jump or you want me?
You can start.
Okay, great. Good. That works out well. The hope is to have those integration points on the back end easier for us to manage, but hopefully they'll be more performant because they're all on the same platform and they're all consistent. Do you want to jump?
Yeah, so I'm going to tread a little carefully here because there's only so much on this that we've talked about publicly. But the idea when we're replatforming with Hyperforce, all of these products are finally going to be running on the same platform with the same dialect, if you will, on how to communicate between each other, right? And over time, we want to be able to extend the platform to enable the same level of ease that you have if you're developing within like Sales and Service Cloud with Apex and custom packaging, and be able to pull that to the entire platform so that you can pull in Slack, you can pull in Commerce Cloud, you can pull in all of these things, and it's just like it would be if you were developing with only in Sales Cloud. What that looks like, we don't know yet. How long it's going to take us to get there, we don't know yet, but that is the goal, and we do believe
4 years.
And
All in 4 years.
Well, we do believe that Hyperforce is the enabler for us to deliver on that vision in a way we have not been able to do before.
Does that include some of those managed packages like FSL and Velocity kind of now playing a lot nicer together? Is that also part of the whole architecture of those as well?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We know the pain in that space, right? And so we want to make it better. I'm not entirely convinced that Hyperforce will be the enablement for that, but I do think that other things that will come across because of Hyperforce will make that better.
Right.
You've got someone behind you.
So we're a Salesforce, Tableau, MuleSoft company.
Great.
So what can you tell us about where platform is going and how Tableau and MuleSoft will be pulled into it and when?
Onboarding? I think he's.
They will be on Hyperforce.
Yeah.
Like everything will move to Hyperforce. MuleSoft's an interesting one, right? Because MuleSoft is essentially a point-to-point integration tool. Like I need to integrate these things point to point and go do some magic with them. So that is, and MuleSoft also has on-premise and they run and so there's some complications there that we need to work through. Tableau is 100% already working on that path. I think we'll have something to announce in that space next year, but they're on their way. So that's 100% the plan. I guess, yes, they're all going to be on Hyperforce. Is there anything specifically you were?
Just looking for performance, better integration, those kinds of things.
Yes and yes. Performance increase is going to come as the scalability options come with the, especially on the Tableau side. They're going to be able to take advantage of the scalability of Hyperforce in a way they haven't been able to with their current architecture. So that's coming. And then the integrations is kind of that same answer as before. Like we're enabling, this is giving us those building blocks to really fix the integration challenges that we have right now.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Any other items? Oh, go you and then you. How about a question over here, Casey?
I have another question for multi-tenant. So I guess Salesforce probably, just my guess, there's a pool model, there's also somewhere maybe between pool and silo when you have resources for multiple tenants there. So I'm curious about, on the AWS, do you separate them by AWS accounts or at a table level or maybe the row level? And then what's your general strategy of isolating resources? And I don't think it's one size fits all, but I would like to know what technology you're using in AWS, and then what are your criteria of going with different approaches? Thank you.
So this is a multifaceted answer because tenancy is handled differently in different parts of Salesforce, right? So Sales and Service Cloud is a multi-tenant platform by design. And so the tenancy is at the application layer. Commerce Cloud today, the traditional Commerce Cloud that we offer is actually a single tenant. So tenancy is handled at the infrastructure layer, not at the application layer. And so for us, we aren't ever going to move away from being a multi-tenant company. We firmly believe that the decisions that we made 20 years ago, which to be fair, were partially because we had to make those decisions because we couldn't build entire stacks for every customer, ultimately resulted in a system that scales in a far better way than we would be if we were fully single tenant. We believe that multi-tenant's the right approach. So from an application perspective, the tenancy stuff stays roughly the same, right? What you see from a tenancy model today is what you get. So there will be, like in sales and service as an example, there will be hundreds, if not thousands of orgs in every instance of Salesforce. So your NA45 or your NA99, wherever you run, those orgs will still live in a single Salesforce tenant or instance. That instance itself is made up of a collection of AWS accounts where we isolate individual services from each other in order to prevent blast radius issues, right? So both from an account scalability perspective, a bad actor perspective, we try to isolate where we can. Again, and we deploy across 3 AZs for resiliency, we do immutable deployments, so even if something were to happen, like it wouldn't last very long. And so that's kind of where we're at from that perspective. We're not changing the tenancy model. The only thing we might change is if things are single tenant today, we might very well try to move them to multi-tenant because we really do firmly believe that the multi-tenant strategy is a key to our success. Yep.
Go ahead.
So, from an operation perspective, depending on the classification of the industry and the data and system, we still have regulations around where the data can be accessed from. I do understand it's all encrypted and all those good things. When we start talking about Hyperforce, does instance hosted in North America, from a support perspective, restrict your teams to have access only in US, or still it's a distributed model where the support they come in from anywhere?
Matt's
Want
got
me
that.
to cover that? So, like, this is fundamentally the question we get when customers ask about data processing, right? So, data storage, you get that by default in a lot of these locations, and we're going to 16 regions to enable that data residency capability, which is fantastic. We also get a lot of questions about data processing, and not just processing from like a compute point of view, like, hey, I need to create a model and then I need to apply that model into production. No, it's a different piece in a lot of our customers, and they're saying, hey, if we need technical support or operational support or just customer support, where's my customer data going? Especially when a lot of companies utilize a globally, like, follow the sun kind of operational model, right? So what we're doing right now and what we announced at Dreamforce this year is the so-called EU operating zone. And by doing that, every customer who is on Hyperforce will have the ability to get access to the EU operating zone support capability, which will allow them to go to their regulators and say, hey, customer data is processed exclusively within the European Union. We're not making country level guarantees at the moment, but we are making we plan to commit to customers that their data will be processed exclusively by people who are located physically in the European Union. Now, that is the only part of the world where we have this kind of offer, and we're right now working with a lot of customers as well as regulators across the European Union to really understand the specifics of what they need in order to go in front of the regulators, and importantly, go in front of their own customers to make sure that they feel confident that they are actually the trusted enterprise that we all are kind of going to market together. Go for it.
Is that an added feature or is it a part of the offering?
The pricing and packaging has yet to be determined yet, but we will be making announcements of that over this next year based on the conversations that we have.
Okay. Any other questions?
One in the back.
Are you maintaining two separate lines of code? Separate code lines?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes and no. And so when we talk about the re-architecture that we did for a lot of these services, a lot of the cases, the application logic was sound. There wasn't a need for us to go in and rewrite every individual function or class within an application. What fundamentally changed was how that is packaged, how it is operated, how it's deployed, all of those pieces. So for that aspect, we generally do have two different paths that we're going down. For the application level, if there were changes that were needed for them to move to Hyperforce, largely that work has also been moved off into our first-party data centers. So the application code is generally one code line, everything else is two.
All right. Anybody else?